You mentioned the Red Sea challenges and the redesigned shipping routes. Not only is that increasing the cost of shipping, but it's also taking longer, so it's affecting supply chain. So what we're working with our clients on, specifically as it relates to supply chain, is looking at redundant sources, looking at not focusing purely on cost, but focusing on surety. So there's a little bit of onshoring going on, not that they're not still working in Asia and China, but they're also doing multiple sources in the U.S.
Container ships now are avoiding the Red Sea, we've been seeing, and the Panama Canal is pretty much drying up, let's say. Is this going to affect dramatically the supply chains?
Well, it's certainly going to affect pricing and timing. As I've mentioned, freight rates have already more than doubled, and what we're seeing is an extended, elongated time period. I think what we're also working with our clients on is perhaps during this period of uncertainty is keeping more inventory and trying to think about ways to be more flexible with what you've got on hand. So, yes, I think it's going to impact the supply chain for sure.
And a PricewaterhouseCoopers survey has shown that 50% of CEOs think that their companies will no longer exist if there is not a fundamental change. What is experience with your clients?
Well, we do an annual disruption survey, and we've found similar results, not quite as dramatic that they'll no longer exist, but I do think a majority of CEOs recognize that they need to adjust their business model. They need to focus on being fit for purpose. They need to think about, are there customers that they shouldn't have? All customers aren't created equal. Do they fire some customers? Do they take a look at non-core assets and really focus on financial fitness and operational fitness?
I would like to ask a question a little bit about the pandemic and the disruption that the pandemic had in the global economy, but also supply chains. We've seen that had shuttered alongside the pandemic. We've seen that supply chains had been affected because of that, and that the growth at this moment seems quite anemic. When do you see things getting better, and will they get better?
Well, I think if you're measuring it from the end of the supply chain to now, before the major disruptions you just mentioned, I think they did get better. They certainly, great leaders have a great ability to adjust and try to anticipate. So I do think it did get better. However, as we just talked about, there have been more disruptions, more challenges, more turmoil in the supply chain and in the world. And what we're advising our executives to do is exactly as I said, try to be a little more anticipatory, perhaps hold a bit more inventory, look at redundant suppliers, focus on how to manage with what you've got, and also while you're at it, clean your house internally. Take a look at who you're doing business with and why.